You're listening to Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry Sanderson on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Tomorrow and Thursday, sunny both days, highs between 87 and 90. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Inside the Locker Room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning. Welcome into a Tuesday edition of Inside the Locker Room. 205-342-9904 is the phone number. Email address for the show, Wimp, easy to remember, wimpandbarry@yahoo.com. You can shoot us an email if you want to talk to us about anything there. Download the Tide 100.9 app to your smartphone, and you can take us with you anywhere you go. Before we get started, we want to thank Yellowwood. And that would be pressure-treated pine from Great Southern. Always remember, guys, if it doesn't have the yellow tag on it, then you certainly don't want it. If you're going to build the fence, the deck, the pergola, the five-star backyard, then there is only one choice, and that would be Yellowwood. To find the dealer closest to you, go to yellowwood.com. Get a little bit closer to football season. I know these guys are probably sick now of practicing against each other. So another week of that. Then game week is next week. So they can maybe see the light at the end of the tunnel here in a couple of days, which will energize those guys, I'm sure. Good morning. How are you this morning?
Fine, Barry. Steve Shaw, we have it wrong on the monitor. Steve Shaw, who's the head of officials at the SEC, is going to be our second guest today. And our first question to him, I talked to him, will be to tell us the new football rules. So for you who really like to keep up with that, you probably, if we get Steve on, you might get a pencil and pad and write it down so you'll be on top of things when Steve presents what is the change in football rules in football. So you'll be on the second hour. Courtney Morgan, who really runs the recruiting at Alabama, got a $300,000 raise up to $825,000. Was offered a job at Southern Cal, and it stopped. I think the one thing that your head coach can do, he can go into the athletic director and give that kind of raise because the athletic director hired the head coach. That doesn't happen happen all the time. So he goes in and tries to get what he needs to get. Not tries, he gets it pretty easy probably. Because you can't lose a guy like Courtney Morgan, who pretty much organizes the recruiting and does whatever it needs to be done as far as looking at film and so forth and getting all the stuff in and going through with money. Some of them won't. Mike Gundy came out this morning and told his Oklahoma State players to quit asking for money. You know, Mike Gundy's one of these kind of guys that changed his hair. He's just a different kind of guy. And that's what he said publicly, is quit asking for money. We'll see what happens there. Of course, we have the 5 highest-ranked conference teams and the 7 ranked teams after that for the playoffs. And there's a lot of gambling going on, a lot of stuff on the Internet about who's good and who's bad. I've been trying to study for my blue plate, and I'm totally confused. But we'll see what happens there. The money to win the national championship right now among people throughout the country is Georgia, Ole Miss, LSU, Miami, and Texas A&M. It surprised me that those gambling. Now, of course, those people have a lot of money. Some of them do, and especially A&M's. Austin Riley, the baseball player for Braves, is out 6 to 8 weeks. Mr. Basketball, a kid that played very, very well up in North Alabama, has decided to leave the state of Alabama and go to Florida DM Academy in Daytona Beach. Of course, that's money, I'm sure, involved there. So we're losing some of these players. Georgia's able to pay their players, I think, as Barry stated one day. And and Florida's able to do so. So some of these kids that feel like are good prospects who'd like to play, you won't get to see as much because they'll be gone. That's all I got.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you more about that Gundy. Yeah, he came out and just said, hey, it is what it is right now. If you want more money, then ask in December. We got a season to play now. We're not negotiating now. So I think he kind of went that approach, said, hey, if you want more, it's later on. It's not now. The hay's in the barn. I didn't say that. But and I would imagine a lot of coaches are probably thinking that, like, quit coming in here now in August, where school's getting ready to start, the season's starting next week. So no more money is going to be added to your deal here, unless you can make true NIL. If you can make true NIL and sell something or do something there. But were you surprised he came out and?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, in fact, I think Dabo has made some statements about what he felt about getting players in and out, and this guy has always been a little bit off the wall, and I think that was fine. I think you're going to find a lot of parents, or some parents, should not say a lot, some parents trying to find out what the player that plays their position is making, and try to get them to ask for more, and be disgusted with things. Not all, but a lot. And I think it just causes you to take off somewhere else because parents sometimes feel like that the money's more important than the ability to play. So it'd be interesting to see if this continues. But it is we have no idea on a radio show. This is ridiculous. On a radio show, the amount of things that go on is ridiculous with people, parents, and ex-coaches that coached him in high school, trying to get these, and agents trying to get these guys to get more money hard.
Yeah, but then you turn around and Coach DeBoer, he came in February, I guess. Was that February, January, when he took the job here? When he landed for his press conference, Courtney Morgan got off the plane. Yeah. So now we're, 6 months into it. He's maybe showed his value. And so USC comes after him and offers him, I guess, the same position there, but maybe more money. Of course, the cost of living out there is ridiculous. As you said, Coach DeBoer probably walks into Greg Burns' office, says, we can't lose this guy. We got to do what it takes. What USC offering him, all right, yes, we can do it. So when those things happen, though, it's hard to blame the players when they're playing really, really well, and then another school wants to pay them, $200,000 or $300,000 more. They're going to go. So that, I guess that's what everybody's doing that now, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something else. This other assistant coaches, their wives, their girlfriends, probably their wives. They're talking to their husbands about why this happened. Because they don't understand it. They're on the telephone with each other. If they've got grown kids, they're on the telephone with each other. Mother and Dad need a little bit better than that. I'll tell you, folks. You can. It's. I've looked at the situation that Barry asked me to do on this television thing for the games is a hard choice. I can't. It's really hard because I study each one more than I've ever studied, trying to pick a winner, and the whole internet is full of teams that are going to be good, teams that are going to be overrated, betting lines. We've gone to a betting deal that's unbelievable. So that's another thing besides what Barry's talking about. Yeah.
So I don't know. It just shows you how much money is out there. Nate Oates really doesn't even get contacted by Kentucky. Next thing you know, he's got a $54 million practice facility coming. So, when you start just giving people $300,000 raises, then it just shows you. I'm not saying they shouldn't have done it. This guy, maybe he's done a great job of helping them recruit, organizing. I know Coach DeBoer trusts him, so it is what it is. But there's plenty of money over there at this level. Now, this is not happening, obviously, at every level. All right, we take the first break, get back. We got a couple phone calls. Look forward to visiting with Kevin Skarbinski at the bottom of the hour. 2 Minute Truck, they're at 1330 Martin Road East. That's where you go if you want to pick up your boxes, your packing supplies, whatever you need to make this a smooth move. Where it's local, out of town, out of state, no problem. Let the professionals handle it. They'll take great care of you and your stuff. Give them a call today, 205-247-5050. It's 2 Minute Truck, movers who care.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Tuesday morning. The Democratic National Convention got started in Chicago yesterday with a goodbye speech from President Biden and his handover of the party standard to Vice President Kamala Harris. Alabama delegates attending the convention say there's much more energy there than they had expected. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage. It's absolutely free all throughout the day. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We are moving with a purpose on the Tuscaloosa freeways and side streets and surrounding areas. You got some road work in Coaling that will slow you down a notch, and this is on Highway 11 in both directions between Hagler Coaling Road and Lower Coaling Road. This is where I'm seeing most of the bulk of your
$100. Visit us at 3537 Skyland Boulevard East or check us out online, bmwoftuscaloosa.com. BMW of Tuscaloosa. Take your dreams for a drive.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays dry for the rest of the week. Lots of sunshine today, the high 89. Very pleasant tonight. A touch of fall in the air. Fair with the low at 62. Tomorrow and Thursday, sunny both days. Highs between 87 and 90. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Want to jump into any of the shows? Call Tide 100.9 right now at 205-342-9904.
Will somebody answer that damn phone?
That's 205-342-9904.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Yellowwood, pressure-treated pine from Great Southern. They bring you the 7 o'clock hour. If it doesn't have the yellow tag on it, you don't want it. All right, to the Yellowwood hotline. Get Philip in. Good morning, Philip.
Good morning, gentlemen. How you doing today?
Good. Okay. How you Philip?
Good. Hey, Barry and Wimp, this Courtney Morgan situation is pretty darn interesting to me, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it either. It sounds like to me that not only did he get an offer, but that he was pretty darn close to getting on the tarmac and heading out.
I'm not sure. He did get the offer, which was great for him to get it. They had a buddy of mine who was looking at jobs this past year after the season who did a good job, and there was school called me about him. And I called him. I said, go up there and interview for the job. Go up there and try to get the job. So he gets the job. And then the place where he's at, they gave him a new job and doubled his pay. And he called me the other day and said he wanted to thank me. He said, had you not told me to go and try to get that job, I never would have doubled my pay at my current job. So if you've done a good job and somebody else wants you, then generally they'll do something to try to keep you. And so evidently they felt like they needed to keep this guy. And so they did.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at with that is I don't think I think he's getting a raise because, yes, he was doing a good job, but that's a given. But I think it was close to where he was about to leave. I mean, really, really close. So I think it was a little bit of edginess there that Alabama was dealing with, and it sounds to me like it got cobbled together. This pay raise got put together really, really fast, like Wimp said, because DeBoer has the ability to go to Greg Byrne and say, hey, this is happening in real time, this is happening now. We got to do something.
Yeah, I think it happened a while ago when this happened. They're just now coming up to where this has to go in front of the the Board of Trustees for approval. You got Christy Curry, who's up for a new contract. George Husak is up. Gymnastics coach is up. And a couple of the baseball assistants are up for raises. So they try to do all these at the same time. That's why it's just now probably becoming public.
I see. Well, interesting story, and I'm glad that he's still with the Tide. I can tell you that right now, because that would be a blow. That would be a blow. You know, that did happen with Michigan and Ohio State just a few months ago. I believe Michigan lost their recruiting person, which is sort of a very similar position that Courtney Morgan had. I believe Michigan lost their guy to Ohio State just a few months ago.
Yeah, I don't even really understand. I mean, I guess, you know, those positions that he's in, they can't even leave the campus recruiting. So I guess he just has a lot of connections there. I don't know how they utilize his connections. Dad, do you know? I guess he works the phone. When they get the guys to campus, he works on it. I know he's friends with some guys out in L.A. they're big money guys, the Pump Brothers. I know because I saw one of them taking Kalen DeBoer in to meet the Los Angeles Dodgers manager. That wouldn't mean anything to anybody around here, but these guys out there that were with Kalen DeBoer are connected to all the athletes out in California. So I just happen to know these guys. So anyway, what do they do with Courtney Morgan? What is besides him and Coach DeBoer being together, really comfortable with each other? How does he handle the recruiting part of it?
Well, he handles the recruiting part of it. First of all, he looks at film, but he has them come in and tell him exactly what they're going to need to get the player, without everybody in the world going to the head coach who's got enough on him. So he takes all the flack from all the coaches about Joe Blow. We can get Joe Blow. We got to give him $50,000 more a year. Those kinds of things, and then he condenses all of it, and at the end of it, the ones he feels like needs to be said to Kalen DeBoer, he tells him. But they try to keep that off of him, and just let him handle it all. Then they know what they need as far as positions. They know who's good and who they think is good and bad. Evaluation periods there, and he takes their evaluations and condenses it and tells Coach what he feels like they need to do. And they will have recruiting meetings where you have offensive and defensive meetings. You will have a recruiting meeting with Coach Bryant, and of course we've just going through the state of Alabama basically with him. We did get Joe Namath and a couple other guys, but basically we stayed in the state of Alabama. But they'll have recruiting meetings where everybody will talk, and everybody will maybe have seen each other's player, and they will decide who's the best and what they need to give them.
He's also, I think he's from Philip. He's from California, but I don't know how solid Lincoln Riley is there. I just don't think I would leave Kalen DeBoer, who just came to Alabama, who's hot as a firecracker, to go out there, and you may go out there with Lincoln Riley. It may be 1 or 2 years, and you may be looking for a job. So I think
your living expenses out there, like you said, are double. They're at least double, and maybe even more than that. And so you have to be smart at what you do. I don't know about his family, but. I think you're right. I think it's trouble out there probably, but being able to, to monitor what money you make is much better in Alabama than it is in California.
Those guys are, when you have somebody with Kalen DeBoer is comfortable with him and trust him, and it takes time to build all that. So I think, it was important to him to make sure.
It probably starts off knocking on the athletic director's door and saying, look, after he says what's happening, he'll say, we can't afford to lose him. And so they go.
So they pull out that left-hand drawer and find another $325,000 a year.
Well, they'll find that the first weekend. I mean, that's just if they can pull $3.75 out of 100,000 people that first weekend, they got that handled.
Yeah.
But I had no problem there. But anyway, I like what Gundy said. I agree with him. Just quit asking for money. Just stop. And I love Coach DeBoer's new office. It looks cool.
A lot different than Coach Saban's. He's, of course, he's like younger, and so he kind of likes the new look, and it looks nice. So
it did look good.
So I'm sure they have upgraded a lot of that stuff over there, and Coach likes what he likes, and he'll be getting on that plane going to Dublin here. That's a long flight, I guess, over there. For first time college game day has ever been outside of the United States, I believe. So it's getting close.
I think Georgia Tech's leaving today.
Are they?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What kind of crowd will they have over there for that game?
I think I read yesterday where it's 48,000 people and sold out.
Okay. I guess football doesn't go over there that much, so I guess it'll be a big deal. So anyway, it's getting started, so that'll be the game everybody's watching. All the eyes will be on that game to see if Florida State can get back. People are talking about how poorly they played in the bowl. Well, that was understandable. They had so many guys opt out and have the season they had and then be distraught like that. There was no that was no big deal that they played like that. We'll see if they get back going.
That's right.
This Saturday.
Well, it'll be interesting because Tech's not a pushover. They are not a pushover.
No, not at all.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you.
So you got the other coaches, as I said, two of the baseball guys, Christy Curry, tennis, all that. I don't think they've ever, I don't remember those ever going in front of the committee there and not getting signed off on. That's just a formality today, right, to get those new contracts signed off on?
Yeah, when you, as I said all the time, when your AD gets a knock on the door, it ain't usually good news.
You saying when Coach DeBoer knocked on the door and said, all right, I got to get ready to lose?
No, it's not good news at all.
Yeah.
No, it's not good news. And the problem you have is that the wives talk so much. And the guys, too. I mean, but the wives have the opportunity because most of them are not working to try to compare what their husbands have done versus what the other guy who got the raise is doing and where he has been, what he has done versus what there's, it just doesn't make any sense to them. So you're right. When we talk about paying the players, this problem that we have with paying the coaches, it's not as if the athletic director could have hidden this, he would love to have done so.
No doubt. Yeah. No doubt. But it's all public record. He knew he
had no chance.
So that's what I'm saying. It's been done for a couple of months, I would assume, but now it's just come to light because they have this deal here and they have to, it's open records and they got to throw it in because you didn't even hear them write an article about the baseball guys or Christy Curry, those guys. It's all you talk about is Courtney Morgan. It's the only one they talk about. And there's probably 5 or 6 of them getting new contracts today. Hey, good for them. I hope they get all they can get. All right, we'll take the break here. We'll get Kevin Skarbinski in when we get back. You listen to Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We are moving with a purpose on the Tuscaloosa freeways and side streets and surrounding areas. You got some road work and coaling that will slow you down a notch. And this is on Highway 11 in both directions between Hagler Coaling Road and Lower Coaling Road. This is where I'm seeing most of the bulk of your delay.
Vehicles to serve our clients. Purchase tickets before they sell out at ESWAChampionsball.com. That's ESWAChampionsball.com.
Mr. SEC Tournament Wimp Sanderson gives you his excellent analysis every weekday on Inside the Locker Room, right here on Tide 100.9.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Yellowbrook brings you this 7 o'clock hour. We appreciate Pressure Treated Pine from Grayson. Appreciate those guys so much. If you're going to build a 5-star backyard, only one choice of that would be Yellowwood. All right, get to the Yellowwood hotline. He writes with the Birmingham Lead, AL.com, posts several articles each week, joins us every Tuesday. Kevin Skarbinski. Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good, fellas. I'm on location. I am on the rooftop of my son's apartment building in Gainesville, looking at a block away Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, otherwise known as the Swamp.
That's about $1,200 a month per bedroom, at least, of that down there.
I refuse to discuss that subject, but I'm going to enjoy the amenities while I'm here helping to move the boys in for the start of the semester.
Tell them to Airbnb it on the football weekends. Just go stay with a friend. Kevin, you wrote an article. I guess, you go through stages when you take a new job. You get there, the honeymoon, then you get to spring ball. In football, you get to spring ball, and then that goes, and you get to the summer, and now they're in fall camp, and then next week, the whole reason you came, the games start, and you were referring to Gene Bartow following John Wooden. That's a lot like it is here in Tuscaloosa. Just kind of talk about the change here at Alabama, and then the games. I hear people. I was driving in this morning, and people on the show before us, they're still criticizing Tommy Rees and the other guy. They're criticizing these guys left and right. They were one play away from a national championship. So times will change next Saturday when people start analyzing everything that you do. Just talk about what you discovered doing this article.
Yeah, that's it was sparked in my mind. Sunday was Gene Bartow's birthday, and that's a fun fact that Gene Bartow and Murray Bartow, his son, both have the same birthday, as do I. We all were born on August 18th, and Murray and I were born on the exact same day in the exact same year, which is really weird when you consider that I ended up being in Birmingham, they ended up being in Birmingham, and I ended up covering them and then becoming friends with each of them. So... And then I really started thinking of Gene and what he experienced following John Wooden. And even though it's a different sport, and certainly it was a different time, I don't know that there's a better parallel to what Kalen DeBoer is about to start facing, because he's following a guy who was known as the best coach in the history of his sport, certainly in terms of championships. And the same was true, even more so, for John Wooden, who'd only won 10 national championships in 12 years before Gene Bartow took over for him. So the scrutiny in Los Angeles and across the country on UCLA basketball then was much like the scrutiny on Alabama football now. And
the reason that Gene Bartow left, I'll get this straight because I know for a fact, they had an opening at UAB, and they called Gene to recommend somebody.
Yes, that's true.
And what happened was John Wooden had taken the camps away and kept the camps. And when you keep the camps, you lose the money. And so Gene was disgusted with losing the camps. And then he said, but I would be interested. And they said, really? And that's what happened.
And he also, that's something I didn't get into in the column because it was I thought it was getting a bit long, but John Wooden was still there. He was on campus. He had an office.
Oh,
not unlike Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, although John Wooden, I don't know that he was as visible. There was no college game day at the time, so he wasn't quite that visible. But he was a very large presence, hovering over Gene Bartow and the UCLA program. And Gene had two very good years at UCLA. He went to the Final Four his first year, lost to that Indiana team that went undefeated, lost in the semifinals. That Alabama, obviously when you were there, came closer than anyone to beating that Indiana team, the last undefeated national champion. So that was another parallel to what Kalen DeBoer has to deal with. Is Nick Saban is a very, very obvious and large presence, still hovering over Alabama football. Whether he likes it or not, whether he wants to be or not, he's said all the right things, done all the right things to try to help, and let Kalen DeBoer do his thing. So that's something that really where the scrutiny will turn up now, starting next Saturday.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's different about Alabama football. Even when you win, there can be criticism. Ask Gene Stallings how much heat he got. I would recommend Kalen DeBoer not do what Gene did and start by losing his first 3 games. That would be today. Can you imagine the reaction if that were to happen today? And Gene, of course, was the perfect person to weather that early storm. But even when Gene Stallings got things rolling and he was winning week in and week out, he wasn't winning by enough, or he wasn't scoring enough points, or he wasn't covering the spread, or it's a different Alabama football, like UCLA basketball back then, is a different animal. And Gene Bartow lost his first game at UCLA by 20 to that same Indiana team that ended his season, that would end their season in the Final Four. And, the howling. The LA Times headline the next day said, Bartow's debut a flop. Or something. It was, but and that's the thing that Kalen DeBoer, I don't know that anyone is really ready for. You can win the game, which is the bottom line, and you can get all kinds of criticism in doing so.
Yeah, that.
What happened there too was that when Gene came back with your article, he came. You mentioned Bill Clark. Well, Reagan Clark, Bill's dad, was a great friend of mine. He was our manager in Alabama when I first came to Alabama. He has passed away now, and Bill was, I don't know, even Bill was where Bill was born then, but Reagan and I were real close to each other, and he passed away. But Gene coming back certainly had the name more so than Sonny Smith or I did, and so it made the recruiting more difficult. But I don't want to throw light on it, but the article, the letter that he wrote to the NCAA saying that Coach Bryant and I cheated was a huge letter. I tried to find the letter yesterday. I have it that he wrote. And I went to see Gene when he was on his last days and visited with him at his home. And but I think that what happened there when he wrote that and it got out is that we didn't lose any players to him. And the reason we didn't is I'll stick to our alumni on all these guys. And the Enos Watleys and people like that, we got close. And Gene had the name. Sonny and I did not. But back then, Auburn, Alabama, and UAB was a big fight. Today, it's not quite like that.
No, that's true. Obviously, you experienced it in those days, and you had 3 programs in the state that wanted to be big time, that were big time. Certainly, you guys led the way in that. And then here comes UAB, which didn't even have an athletic department before that. So that was, and I wasn't here at the time. Obviously, I came in later. But I think, you're referencing that letter, which the LA Times obtained and printed, and that obviously caused a huge controversy. And I think Gene, I never really got into it with him in my conversations with him through the years. But I think if he had it to do all over again, he would not have written that letter. If he knew it was going to become public, he certainly wouldn't have written that letter. And so because it didn't do, I don't think it did anyone any good for him to do that.
Well, I think he just mentioned me. I think mentioning because I was a nobody, but I think by mentioning Coach Bryant, that hurt.
Well, yeah,
that really hurt.
Yeah.
But as far as benching me, he was way ahead of me because he'd been to UCLA and I hadn't coached at Alabama, and nobody wanted me particularly anyway. So it was that's the way it was.
That probably didn't help.
But that leads to a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that leads to a good point, though. And Gene, later in life, admitted when he was at UCLA, he was too thin-skinned. He listened to radio, all the criticism, and again, it was nothing compared to today. You didn't have social media. Radio shows were not what they became. And so, but he did get criticism. Even as they went 52-9 over 2 years, and won 2 conference championships. And as I said, got to the Final Four the first year, and they got upset in their second game in the NCAA tournament his last year. Before he left, he was too sensitive to that criticism. He listened to it. He heard it. And that's what I don't think we really know about Kalen DeBoer is how will he handle criticism, because every coach is going to get it at times. And so how do you deal with it We don't know. He's been so successful in his short time as a football bowl subdivision head coach. He's gotten overwhelmingly. He's been praised and complimented as he should have been for what he's accomplished. But there will come rough patches, and how does he handle that when the scrutiny turns up, the heat turns up, and a lot of it comes from his own fans who are dissatisfied, not just with winning, but the way they might be winning, and certainly lose a game. And you'll see what it's like really to be the Alabama football coach.
Well, I don't want to get into a lot of stuff because we had everybody going after everybody back then. I found a letter, a two-page letter of a person that most of you know who was a writer back then. He does a radio show now. Blasted.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
Blasted. Yeah. I would give anything to read this letter to you, because he followed me in a truck.
I'm sure there. Kevin would love for you to read it too.
And it would take too long. Tom would like it.
I'll call you later. We'll talk later.
It's the darndest letter you've ever read in your whole life. I've never seen. And of course, we got Sports Illustrated for getting Bobby Lee hurt, saying we bought him a car. So it was a pretty good letter. I can imagine.
But that is, you guys know, that's part of it, right? How you deal with the media, because the media is different. Now, I don't know if the media here covering Alabama is, as it's presently constituted, is as tough or as hard on coaches as it was, say, when you were coaching Wimp, or when Gene was at UCLA, the LA media, for example.
The writers. The writers were really trying to make a implant in people to read their paper. We had the Birmingham News and the Birmingham Post-Herald. We had two newspapers, and they went against each other in sports.
Competition. Yep. There was a lot of competition.
Some of them didn't particularly like basketball at all, and didn't write it.
Yeah, I know a few of those guys. Yeah,
and some of them thought this is the time to stir this up with UAB and Gene there, and they did a great job of doing so.
Kevin,
at that time was a big change in the journalism business in sports. Sports was not hard hitting. It was not investigative. It was, and after Watergate, and then it took some time to trickle down, I think, to sports and particularly in this state. But then you had guys who thought, well, I'm a journalist. I'm not a sports writer. I'm a journalist, and I'm an investigative reporter. And as you said, there was a newspaper war of sorts between the Post-Herald and the Birmingham News. Yeah. And I worked for the News for all those years, and a person you referenced earlier worked for the Post-Herald, and so you had to you had competition in your backyard. Right. You wanted to beat those guys on every story. And if you could find a big story, and if you could break a big story, then obviously that was a feather in your cap and in your newspaper's cap. So all of those things, all of those circumstances combined to make it difficult for you, for Gene Bartow, for Sonny Smith at Auburn at that time. Because, again, it was a different type of sports journalism that was emerging.
The other factor, too, and I don't know about Ian, but the other factor, too, is that Gene wanted to start football. And Coach Bryant, was upset in that he felt like if they did, that they would be getting players that University of Alabama wanted. And so he called the staff in, and he called the staff in and told them, by George, to be darn sure that, and he called everybody in and said nobody is to play UAB in any sport. We're not going to consider them a sport, because Coach Bryant didn't know everything like everybody does now, but he knew enough that he knew about recruiting. So when he called the staff in, he told the staff, no, you work hard, but we're not playing them in any sport. Well, then they started in on me about playing them in basketball. Well, I wouldn't have played them anyway, and I told him that. And I said, if I beat you, I'm supposed to. And if I don't beat you, I'm not going to hurt my recruiting. But I couldn't play him anyway. So everything they did in the NITs and NCAAs was try to get Alabama and UAB playing each other. Finally, after I left, I think David and them had to play UAB and got beat, but it was no big deal.
Well, that was the NIT paired
Yeah,
them. So.
but it wasn't.
Yeah, the first year. That was David's first year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
And in some ways, for the old guard, that hurt David, and that was something that people held against David because he lost that game. And again, there were a lot, look, David's a great guy. He did a great job for UWIMP, obviously, and for other stops in his career. But that was one of those things that, having to play UAB and then losing to UAB in Tuscaloosa, even though it was the NIT, but it was as if, okay, well, this is a new world now. After all the success you had, Wimp, here in David's first year, he's saddled with that. And as you said, it was a no-win situation for him.
Yeah. One thing I'm learning, if I outlive Dad, when Dad's mom passed away, Kevin, Dad and I think it was just he and I, we went up there and went through she kept every card, everything she ever had.
I've got all
it
of
sounds
them.
like Dad's got every letter he's ever
I tried to find the letter last night that Gene had written to me, or to the NCAA about Coach Bryant.
She kept empty toilet paper rolls. I don't really know what she was doing.
I saw one last night that said, "Congratulations, Wimp, Eddie Sutton." So I was looking through that stuff. I got more stuff.
That's treasure right there. That is priceless treasure.
And I got one from the girls coach at Tennessee,
Pat Summit.
Summit.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin. In today's college athletics, especially at the high level, being good is lucrative. I can't imagine what Mark Sears probably got to come back. There's being good is lucrative. Evidently, Courtney Morgan is very good at his job. And so, when you're good, people are going to come after you. The guy hadn't been here, about 6 months, and he's getting a $325,000 raise. And I think it probably happened a month or two ago. It's just now coming up. And so I'm sure the athletes are looking at that now saying, hey, these coaches are getting paid. We're going to get paid. It's just an ongoing cycle now. These guys making incredible amounts of money at this time, right?
Well, there's no question about that. But it is nice to see, other guys on the staff, especially guys on the off-field staff. We've seen coordinators now start to make $1 million, $2 million. Their salaries start to go up. Position coaches, strength coaches, we know the value that they have to a football program, a basketball program, et cetera. And Courtney's in an unusual position as the general manager of Alabama football. And it really shows that's just the creation of that position shows how much college football has changed.
Yeah.
That you need someone to manage so many of the different aspects of the program that the head coach doesn't have time to deal with. The athletics director doesn't have time to deal with. He's got every sport to oversee. And so you need someone who really, in an administrative capacity, can oversee recruiting and NIL and all the things you have to pull together that have to work together for you to be successful on a consistent basis. And so I haven't met Courtney yet, but I've heard great things about him and the work that he's doing. And obviously Alabama feels that he is doing a fantastic job because, he'll be one of those guys that they will come after. And it's just a continuation on your larger point, Barry, that, there's big money to be made in major college football. And the players have recognized that. That's why the House case came about. That's why it was settled. That's why players, if they can get it started by next year, which is the plan, it seems like it's almost impossible to get all the details hammered out by then, but that they're going to be involved in revenue sharing, and they are going to get a bigger cut of the pie directly from the schools. So that genie's not going back in the bottle. That's not anyone who longs for what they consider the good old days of college athletics when conferences were regional, and if you were in the Southeastern Conference, you were in the Southeast, and et cetera, et cetera. Those days are gone. And players are going to get paid, and it's only going to become more of a part of major college athletics. So get used to it. Just be thankful if your school is able to pay, because it is successful, it's able to pay guys like Courtney Morgan to do the jobs that they do.
I kind of like what Mike Gundy said, though. Hey, it is you got what you got now. Don't call us for any more money. We got a season to play now. I think all the coaches probably feel that way, but and of course, if they get NIL, but they can get it. But not everybody's willing to say it like him publicly. I thought that was kind of interesting what he came out and said yesterday.
Yeah, that's why you've got to have more. You got to have more concrete rules on how this all works, just like the NFL does. There's a time for free agency. There's a trade deadline. There's all the different things that are part of the business end of the sport. They operate within strict rules, strict time periods, and that's what college football has got to get to, and major college basketball as well. They've got to get to more uniform rules, so everyone's operating by the same standards, and you don't have the wild disparity that you have right now.
Yeah, no doubt. That.
I can't think of anything else to ask you. I'm involved with a little blue plate thing that Barry wants me to do on games that don't mean much.
Money's money. If you win, you win.
Yeah.
Kevin, he's complaining. Like, okay, this is week 0, all right?
There's no good
So I told him, this is the deal I gave him. We keep his record throughout the year. We talk about, we got a spot. Chuck Norwood sponsoring the Blue Plate Special. I said, it's week 0. We will give you an exhibition game. Terrible. You can just pick it. It won't count against your record unless you win. We'll give you the win if you lose. And he has complained.
That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, he has complained and complained.
And you look at can you try to figure out Montana State at New Mexico? Come on.
No.
I've studied Montana State. I listened to Doug Bell tell me how good Montana State is, and I hear that new coach at New Mexico. SMU, 27.5-point favorite over Nevada.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Better you than me, Wimp.
You got Georgia Tech, Florida State. Take that one.
That's not enough. 11's not enough.
There you go. Well, there's your blue plate right there.
Yeah.
Well, I've looked at that pretty heavy, but I'm not
Kevin,
sure.
you do know now, like, he's very competitive. Like, he frets over these games. Like, when the game's going on, we'll be getting hit. I'll be texting back and forth. Like, if he loses, he's destroyed for the night.
Well, I get it on the coach.
Yeah, he's mad. He's
lived his life by a scoreboard.
Yeah.
And this is just another scoreboard. Listen, I hear Wimp. He's on a million radio shows besides your own, and I hear him. He'll say it. He says it very sheepishly, like, "Yeah, I won 4 in a row," and it's that. So I know he's keenly aware of his record on the blue plates, and he does quite well, and he will downplay it, but he knows a lot more football than he lets on. I think most people understand that he does.
I'm giving him a free pick this week, and he has complained about it.
You talk about hard.
You would think I'm making him push his own money in the middle to bet on this game.
I tried to study how good Nevada was offensively last night.
But the problem is, people do bet on these. They wait till he picks and they bet.
Oh yeah.
Sounds
like Gene Stallings getting ready for Louisiana Tech.
Yeah.
There you go.
Boy, when he got beat those first 2 or 3 games, I felt sorry.
Could you imagine?
Gene and I are big buddies.
Oh.
This is a hard deal.
If Western Kentucky knocked off Alabama, what would be going on around here?
Oh my heavens!
The sky. To some people, the sky would be falling at that point. Yeah.
TJ Finley. All right, Kevin, tell everybody where they can find you. Next week, we can talk football games.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to that. Follow me on Twitter /X at Kevin Skarbinski. Keep up with the different things I'm doing. My 2 columns a week in the Birmingham Lead. Go to birminghamlead.com. Subscribe to that publication. And I misspoke on the start date. Actually, CBS Sports has a Big Ten doubleheader that first big Saturday on August 31st. So Inside College Football with Scott Griffin and me on CBS 42 in Birmingham, 6:30 every Saturday evening, starting on September 7th. And you can watch that on CBS 42 in Birmingham. So I hope people will check it out.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great week.
All right. We want to thank Yellowwood. They made this 7 o'clock hour possible. Always remember, guys, if it doesn't have that yellow tag on it, then you certainly don't want it. You listen to Tide 100.9, 1230 AM WTBC. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up starting at 2 p.m., we're going to feature Mike Detillier, WWL, the Big 870. Brett McMurphy explains why he believes in the Alabama Crimson Tide. Right here on The Game, Tide 100.9, 1230. WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest-running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We're definitely gaining some traction for your rush to work delays now. Thickening up considerably on 69 on the southbound lanes at Union Chapel Road. This is going to back you up. Those brake lights are going to take you back to Hammertown Road. And McFarland Boulevard at Lurleen Wallace.
.com or Town Square Media Tuscaloosa radio websites. Fill out the Advertise Here form. Put the power of Town Square Media to work for your business.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays dry for the rest of the week. Lots of sunshine today, the high 89. Very pleasant tonight. A touch of fall in the air. Fair with the low at 62. Tomorrow and Thursday, sunny both days. Highs between 87 and 90. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square Media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Eddie Garcia.
News from the NFL, where the Washington Commanders named rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels as their starter. The second overall pick in this year's draft won the Heisman at LSU last year. LA Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert returned to practice Monday after missing about 3 weeks with a foot injury. He is expected to be ready for the season opener against the Raiders. In baseball games of note, the Orioles lose to the Mets 4-3 on a Francisco Alvarez solo homer in the ninth. Baltimore drops a half game behind the idle New York Yankees for first in the AL East, while the New York Mets move a game and a half back of idle Atlanta for the final wildcard spot in the National League. Padres beat the Twins 5-3 in a battle of wildcard teams. San Diego remains 3 back of LA in the NLS because the Dodgers shut out the Mariners 3-0. Gavin Stone tossed 7 shutout innings in the win for LA. Astros get by the Red Sox 5-4.
Feeling these changes within just a couple of days.
Text support to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Inside the Locker Room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to the second hour of Inside the Locker Room. Allstate Insurance agent Andrew Kniffer will help us kick off this 8 o'clock hour. Andrew is my agent. Let him become yours. Looking for home, life, auto. Whatever you need, he will take great care of you. 4705 McFarland Boulevard, Suite 3 in Norport. You just give them a call. Tell them what you need. They'll quote you. Email you the quote right there. 205-722-9201. Andrew Kniffer, Allstate Insurance. All right, get to the Andrew Kniffer hotline. Get Super Joe in. Good morning, Super Joe.
Good morning.
Super Joe, you there? Yeah, I don't hear him. All right, call us back, Super Joe. All right, get up to the Yellowwood hotline. Get Tom in. Good morning, Tom.
Very good morning. Good morning, Coach. How are y'all?
Good. How are you?
Hanging in there.
You know, it's ridiculous how some of these newspaper people and all that, how they think. It really is amazing to me. And Gene freaking Bartow, are you kidding me? Is that what we got to listen to on Tuesday morning? Gene freaking Bartow, that lowlife that was on the scene here in the state of Alabama, and everybody tries to make out like he's some kind of I don't know what, but he was a lowlife. And one thing about Skorbinski that I appreciate this morning was the fact that he was blowing about Gene Bartow coaching. You brought up that letter to prove to everybody what a lowlife he was. What is it with these people? What do they look at when they are making judgments about such stuff? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, when I asked him about it, it was nothing.
And you sit there and didn't say a word.
It wasn't had anything to do with the letter. It turned to the letter, but the question was following John Wooden, and that's what Kalen DeBoer's about to do.
That's another joke.
So we never got a chance to really get that answered. That's where we were going. Not the letter. It had nothing to do with the question. We just got to the letter somehow.
But my point about the letter is we don't need to be analyzing Gene freaking Bartow. He had a player to die on the court in practice in Memphis. He's a lowlife.
Wow. Okay.
And to bring up the analogy of Coach Saban's got an office at Tuscaloosa still. Well, guess who else does? About 15 other coaches have offices. Let's start with Florida.
Tom.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
It was that John Wooden had an office there. John Wooden was considered the greatest basketball coach, as is Nick Saban. That was the comparison there.
Yeah, but he said his statement was that because he had an office on campus, that he would overshadow DeBoer. That was his point. Am I right or wrong here?
I mean, I didn't read the article. We really didn't get into depth with what his point was, but I think he was just saying that with the season starting next week, it's just going to be different when you're following a legend. When you're following a legend, not many people follow legends. So just to talk about he was just saying he wished Gene Bartow was still here to talk to him about it, what it was like to follow John Wooden, because that's what Kalen DeBoer's getting ready to do.
Do we really, let me ask you this, do we really, at the University of Alabama, fans of the University of Alabama, do we care what Gene Bartow has to say? I don't. I don't want to think about
he ain't gonna say anything right now. He don't want me to say anything.
I know it, but I mean, you don't see my point.
I mean,
I do.
That's easy.
You do, don't you, Coach? And Coach, let me ask you then. Let me talk to you. I'm right, aren't I? Somebody that was backstabbing us over nothing.
How is it? An opinion is an opinion. It's not right or wrong. It's your opinion.
Well, we were involved in a pretty big battle.
Well, I remember it, and I'll tell you this right here.
Wadleys and people like that. We won all the battles, and we
That's
won
right.
because I stick my alums on them, and I didn't do bad myself. We didn't have the letter that if Tom could read the letter that they wrote trying to put us on probation by a writer, he would run through the phone.
Well, I'll tell you this, Coach. The fact that he wrote a letter, and you know what? He had to leave out. He had to leave out of the program because he couldn't take the heat that you was putting on his rear end. And you know what? That's what those people in Birmingham can't stand.
Did you also hear Kevin say that he felt like he regretted sending the letter?
Too late. He should have regretted before he wrote it.
I think.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm wrong then, Coach.
Not wrong. I mean, have you ever done something that you made a mistake?
You don't like it's wrong.
But have you ever done something you said, gosh, you know what? In hindsight, I shouldn't have done that. Even when you were younger or whatever, have you ever done something that you regret doing?
Oh, well, is this about me or about what Scarbenzi
Well, that question was about you.
If we start talking about me, it'll be somebody come and put me in prison.
One of the unusual letters, not unusual, but I won't, was the idea to start football at UAB. And
I agree.
And Coach Bryant, the first thing he did was be darn sure in his staff meetings that those coaches, he didn't want to lose one player to anybody in the state of Alabama. Now, he knew he was going to lose some to Auburn, but he didn't want a third one coming in there. And, of course, it affected basketball, and he told everybody that better not anybody playing them, but that was Coach Grimes' way of saying, we're not going to show any mercy whatsoever. We're going to stick with what we've been doing. We don't play them in anything. So that's what happened.
Well, Coach, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get off. I'm all wrong about everything. I guess I don't know.
You're right.
How you're supposed to feel about some of these enemies of ours, but.
We still got one kicking.
Sir?
We still got one enemy. I do.
Well, I'll tell you this right here. I love you, and I love Barry, and I love the show, but I'm going to have to quit saying anything. Barry shoots me down all the time. I can't even have traditional enemies on this show.
I mean, I just look at it differently than you do. That's all right. That don't mean we can't talk.
I know. I agree. I disagree with you, but I agree.
Yeah, you can disagree with me. That's no problem disagreeing with me.
I love the show. Thanks for letting me call.
Thank you, Ty. I think there's certain people in life, like, that it doesn't matter what they say, it's going to irritate you. And whenever Kevin Skarbinski talks, it irritates Tom. He's going to take whatever he says, and it irritates him. And I'm sure everybody's got people like that, so there you go. All right, we'll get to break here. We'll get the director of officials, not just the SEC. Well, he doesn't the SEC anymore. He's over all the officials in the country, and Steve Shaw. A lot of new rules. We'll get him.
Again, I can give him my first question if you don't mind, so they'll have a pay. He said, first thing we need, because I was talking about the helmets. I'm sure you're going to ask him about that. On each, we need to go over the new rules in college football, and I said sure. So that's what that'll be the first question.
I'll let you hit it. All right, Tuscaloosa Toyota. We'll talk with my good friend Justin tomorrow. But those Toyota Tundras now 1.99% APR. The Toyota Camrys 3.99%. You got the RAV4s, great deals out there on those 3.99. The Highlanders, so you can go out and lease a Highlander, $429 a month. If you want to rent a Toyota, you can do that right there at the website, TuscaloosaToyota.com. Look at the new inventory, the pre-inventory, or just head down to Skyland Boulevard and check out everything they got there. They'll do a great job for you. They did it for my mother-in-law last week. They took great care of her. Man, she got a Highlander. That thing is sweet. Leather seats in there. It's purrs like a kitten. Nice. So give them a call or swing by there and tell them that Wimp and Barry sent you. Listen to Tide 100.9. It is the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We're in the thick of your rush to work right now, and McFarland Boulevard, it's gained a little more volume on both the east and westbound lanes between Watermelon Road and coming over here to 43. You're going to have some delays. And speaking of 43, on the southbound hookup to McFarland, expect bumper to bumper
poverty. And there are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a Child with Compassion today. Text the word radio to 83393.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental car comes with 24 hours roadside assistance.
Visit us at 3537 Skyland Boulevard East or check us out online, bmwoftuscaloosa.com. BMW of Tuscaloosa. Take your dreams for a drive.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays dry for the rest of the week. Lots of sunshine today, the high 89. Very pleasant tonight. A touch of fall in the air. Fair with the low at 62. Tomorrow and Thursday, sunny both days. Highs between 87 and 90. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Get right up to the Yellowwood Hotline. He is the national coordinator of football officials. We're very happy to have him on, especially with college football finally kicking off this Saturday with several new rules. We'll get him to talk about those. Steve Shaw. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
Hey, Steve.
Good morning.
Thank you
morning,
so
Coach.
much for being on this WIMP. And my son Barry is on with me. We had you on one other time. I have told our listeners to tell them the first question I was going to ask you is go over the new rules that are in college football or any rules that are complicated that we don't understand.
Well, first of all, good to be with y'all, and it's exciting. It's week 0, so we have 8 games this weekend, but it's opening week for our officials, so it's the heart going a little faster and a little jump in the step, so all good. But, yeah, Coach, so probably the biggest thing that's gotten the most attention, we're adding a couple technology rules. And we experimented with this in the bowl season, so many of your listeners may have seen it. But we're going to allow coach-to-player communication. So a coach can talk to one player on the field, only one on the field. Can have the radio receiving capability. You'll tell them they have an unbranded green dot on the back of the helmet, and they can talk to them. We're actually, as the play clock goes down, when it gets to 15 seconds or the snap, whichever comes first, we'll turn it off, and it'll remain off throughout the down. And then after the down, it'll come back on. But a lot of excitement around this, especially with...
Is that complicated, Steve?
Well, I will tell you, it is making the technology work is not necessarily simple. I mean, when you go to Bryant-Denny with 100,000 plus in there, you got to make sure all your frequencies and everything work. But we've actually, this has really been almost unprecedented. The 10 FBS conferences have worked together incredibly well to ensure we're actually using 2 different technology vendors. So they've worked to make sure that if it's a non-conference game, that the 2 technologies work together. We had, not only have they worked together, we spent a full day, all 10 of them went to Dallas, and we spent a full day walking through the technology. So, my biggest fear is, does this thing work on game day? And we're pretty confident it will. But
one other thing is, I've got a guy with a dot on his helmet on the defensive side, and I've got a guy with a dot on his helmet on the offensive side. Is that correct?
That's correct. Each team will get one play.
My offensive guy at the line, my quarterback has got whoever's got. He talks to his coach to change the play. Is that right?
The coach will be able to communicate with him and look at the formation, and he'll be able to change the play. But that's part of the reason the rules committee wanted to turn it off at 15 seconds.
Okay.
Where, once we get to 15 seconds on the play clock, then no more changes, or at least coming from the sideline, they could make their own decision. But you
don't push that button to ask for it until you almost under the center.
Well,
and you look at the defense, then you do it. Is that correct?
It's open.
It's open. So the coach can talk to them anytime. So when the play's over, they can begin talking to them, about the next play. It's just we turn it off. And we also, it's off during the down because I don't know that you could really do this, but nobody wanted the coach to, come in during the live play, hey, throw to the check down.
Yeah, number 22 is wide open.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So none of that. But we're looking forward to it. It'll be operational for all plays except kickoffs. One of the things that is a little difficult, we learned this in the bowl season, is helmet management. And what do you say about that? Well, if you have 2 players on the field with green dot, then that's a equipment violation. It's a live ball 5-yard penalty. So the coaches have got to manage the helmets as well. And that's not so hard on offense because typically you have a quarterback, a backup quarterback, maybe you have a wildcat quarterback or whatever. But on defense, usually your middle linebacker is your signal caller, but then your backup middle linebacker may play on a lot of blitz packages, et cetera, et cetera. So you've got to make sure that, if that backup middle linebacker's in, they're wearing a helmet other than their green dot helmet. So you're going to see on the sideline, if you look at the sideline, you're going to see managers over there with helmets under their arm, ready to handle this from a helmet management standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, if the guy with the green dot helmet got hurt, you have extra green dot helmets over the hand of the guy that's going in, or whoever you want to. How does that work, Steve?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. And managing that, it's almost like the coaches, on special teams having to manage the numbers. You can't have two players wearing the same number on the same play. Well, a lot of times, if the gunner on the punt team gets hurt, their backup may have a number of another player on that. So you'll have to manage helmets like you manage your numbers on your team. So, but we're excited about that. The other technology change for this year is we're going to allow tablets for in-game video. And so the team can have up to 18 tablets. That's a lot of tablets.
But explain that to our listeners, please.
Yeah, so why we went to 18, I'm not really sure, but the coaches talked it through. But so you can use the tablets on the sideline. You can use them in the coach's box upstairs or in the locker room at halftime. But it'll have in-game video. And so a little different than the NFL. The NFL has the tablets, but they're all still shots. This will actually use in-game video, but they can't put any of their analytics or play sheets or anything else. They can't load up the iPad. It can have only that in-game video. And any coach can use it. We had a change recently. I'm sure y'all talked about it, but before analysts or all these guys, so they have 10 countable coaches plus a head coach. They've got 4 GAs. All those could coach players. All the analysts could not technically coach a player. But this summer, they actually, the football oversight amended that, and now anybody can coach. So
okay, I'm going to send my coaches in the dressing room, 3 of them with tablets, before we get in there at the halftime, so they can start showing. Is that right?
Yeah, you can do that. That is no problem.
So Coach A and be prepared. Coach A and Coach B are going to be in there with the tablets that it hurt us in that first half, ready to show that to our team when we get in there. Is that correct?
That's correct. The only thing they can't do, they have to do it from the tablet. So they can't interconnect them to big screen or a big projector or something of that nature. They have to do it from the tablets. But, yeah, you could have coaches going in early, kind of prepping for what they're going to show at halftime. Hey, here was a blitz and we didn't pick it up. Here's what we got to do, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so, Chris.
I'm sure coaches are trying to figure out right now exactly how they're going to deal with that.
Where is that cap? Is it official on the field that does that? Is that done up at the press box by an official where they shut that off with 15 seconds to go before the play? Who monitors it, Steve?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, we've always had a game clock operator and a play clock operator, and we're actually adding a third person that'll be the coach-to-player communications operator. And they literally they have a red plunger button, and, they will hit the plunger, when it's time to turn it off. So there'll be, so a new job for somebody this year in every stadium.
Yeah.
That will actually be the person that will control that and turn the system off. And then, as importantly, turn it back on, allow the
Will he video every play?
Well, so the video will actually be, there'll be 3 streams of video. You'll have the coach's sideline copy, the coach's end zone copy, and then whoever the TV broadcast, all feeding into this iPad. So you'll get 3 views. We call it the intercut on every play. And so that'll come from, your currently existing, video guys for the coaches, and whoever your broadcast partner is on that game day will all feed into the iPad.
Steve, can you get in football officiating, not officiating, but coaching, can you get too technical?
I think so. And you've been there, Coach. I mean, sometimes you got to just turn your guys loose. And but I will tell you this, especially with the tablet. I mean, this is where our players live. This is their life. I mean, they are all good at working the video. And so this will be something that's quite natural for them. And that's why I think that plus the communications to, one player on the field. When the coaches tried it in the bowl season, nothing but very positive feedback. And
really?
the one thing we did have to do, we added something to the rule because the first game we used the video, the tablets that they were using on the sideline. So now we have a rule that if any team personnel engages an official with the tablet to show them video, that's an automatic unsportsmanlike conduct foul. So,
all right, say that again, Steve. Say that again.
So if a coach, he didn't like a call or something, he can't bring the tablet up to the official on the sideline and show him the play.
Yeah.
And the coaches know this. It's an automatic unsportsmanlike. And we had it in our first bowl game. UCLA was in the game, and they had an assistant coach. He kept trying. The official did a good job. He kept walking away. He kept bringing it to him. So we just felt, hey, let's eliminate that. So
this is a great interview. I just hope that we're recording it because we're going to use the interview again this week. We really are. This will be another interview listening to you again. I'm so dumb with this stuff. I don't know what else to ask.
Let me ask you this real quick, Steve.
Yeah.
Because last year, when does the clock stop? Last year, I know they were trying to speed the game up, and even if a guy went out of bounds, I think now it's saying that in the last 2 minutes it'll stop on first downs. Otherwise, it runs. I remember Texas got a lead on Alabama in the second half, and then there was still a lot of time. They literally just ran the clock out. Once Alabama used all their timeouts, there was no way to really stop the clock. Talk about when the clock stops during the game.
Yeah, so it's a great question. And we do have another change for this year, and we're adding in what we're calling the 2-minute timeout. It works similar to a 2-minute warning in the NFL that if the game clock's running and the ball's not live, we're going to stop the clock at 2 minutes. If the ball's live, then when it's dead and goes under 2 minutes, we're going to stop the clock.
Well,
but
that's big there, Steve. That's really big because people look for that 2-minute timeout. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it adds a coaching strategy into the game. How do you use your timeouts in conjunction with that? But really, the reason behind it, and you hit on it before, Barry, the game last year with the change on first down, we lost about 4.5 to 5 plays a game, maybe 4.5 to 5 minutes per game. So it wasn't dramatic. People really liked the change of the not stopping the clock on first downs except in the last 2 minutes. It kept the game moving. The game flow was good. But our TV partners seemed to get a little more nervous last year. They were afraid, hey, the game's flowing well. I'm not going to get all my breaks in. And they started doing more of the back-to-backs. And we all hate that. And you know what I'm talking about on a back-to-back. You score a touchdown, they take a TV timeout, you kick off, they take another one.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing with this 2-minute timeout, we're not really adding an additional timeout to the game. Each of the media partners have to hold back one of their media timeouts for the 2-minute timeout. So it's not an additional timeout, but it'll help them. It'll help us avoid the back-to-backs. It'll be coaching strategy. But then, back to your question as well, we're going to link all of our timing rules to this 2-minute timeout. So before we had some timing rules, like last year when we introduced if you had a first down in bounds, the clock would not stop except after 2 minutes. Now it'll stop anytime after the 2-minute timeout. So there'll be a delineation in the game. But we actually have 10 different rules. Like we have 4 different 10-second runoff rules. Those didn't kick in to 1 minute. Some of the rules, like you run out of bounds, we would restart the clock except for the last 2 minutes. So it varies. Some were 2, some were 1. Now they'll all link up together. They'll all happen anytime after the 2-minute timeout. So it'll give us a rules linkage, kind of a coaching strategy, and I think it'll help our media partners. So I think everybody's excited about the 2-minute timeout, and we look forward to seeing really how that impacts length of game, plays in the game. Does it make a difference from that perspective as well?
But if a guy goes out of bounds, does the clock stop and then they restart it when the ball gets set? How does that work, Steve?
So that one of the things we did last year, in addition to the first down, timing rule, we really got all our officials synchronized in restarting the clock. So what happens, just like you say, except now, anytime after the 2-minute timeout, if you run out of bounds, the clock turns off and it stays off until the next snap. But before the 2-minute timeout, if you go out of bounds, the clock initially stops. But then what we've told our referees, and we will be consistent across the nation, is when typically when it goes out of bounds, we're going to get a new ball. When we have the new ball and it's being relayed in to typically the center judge or umpire to be spotted, when it's relayed in, we're going to restart the clock. So that'll make us all consistent. You know, sometimes we had some referees that were very quick. I mean, the toe would hit out of bounds and they'd be winding it up, and we had some that would wait and wait and wait. So now we have a consistent marker for every referee to restart the clock, and that'll keep the game moving as well. You know, we're not going to wait till we get it down and everybody gets ready and then restart the clock. Once we relay it in, crank the clock and keep the game moving.
2:02 on the clock, I go out of bounds. What happens?
So on that, so we haven't had the 2-minute timeout yet, so we'd stop it at 2:02, but when we relayed it in, we would start it up. So then after the next play, we would stop it for the 2-minute timeout.
So if I did that and we started the clock, I could quickly call I would have my 2-minute timeout. I can call that then.
Yeah. Well, and let me make sure I made it clear there, because let's say you went out, you said 2:02. Yep. So when you relay the ball back in, you're going to restart it at 2:02, and then it's probably going to crank down to 2 minutes, and then you would stop it for the 2-minute timeout. But Coach, you're right on it, because timeout management was always a strength for you. This is one where the coach could actually call a timeout. So let's say it's 2:02. We throw it in, we crank it up. At 2:01, they call a timeout.
Yeah.
We'd have that, and then after the next play, you'd have the 2-minute timeout. So it's kind of a way to buy an extra play in the game, if you use those timeouts properly. So that'll be a lot of a strategy component for our coaches.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, going through clinics for your officials is a booger bear job, isn't it? Hard.
Well, it is. And so one of the things especially like in the SEC, not only do we work scrimmages, but we'll have crews that will go and spend like a weekend with a team. They'll work their practice, their scrimmage, but then they'll go to their position meetings. Like the umpire will go to the offensive line meeting, defensive line meeting, talk about, hey, what are we looking for from holding and that sort of thing. So we get a lot of dialogue between the officials and the coaches, and that's really helpful as you head into the season. It's helpful for the coaches. It helps them know what the officials are looking at, what they're going to call, and it can help them teach, better. And then it's good for the officials because, honestly, we learn the new techniques, what they're teaching the players, and that's helpful to us to understand as we evaluate player behavior.
All right, so I say to Barry, I'm the head coach. Barry, get in the dressing room and get the tablet out there so we can show them this play. So the minute we get there, we can show them the tablet. Is that what I'm
They can show them the tablet when they come off the field. When they come off, the defense comes off the field, they go with their coach and look at the film right there. So the dressing room's fine as well, but they're going to be showing it to them on the field, aren't they, Steve?
Okay.
They absolutely are. And and that's why, Coach, you said, why the heck 18 tablets? But they really designate a number for the offense, a number for the defense, and that's probably why so many. But this it'll be something new on the sideline that they've never had to coach with before, and so that'll be it'll be interesting. But that, like I said, that's where our players live. That's how they learn, and I think it'll be interesting to see how coaches. And coaches will be creative how they use these, and we've tried to keep the rule as simple as possible. And like I said, my biggest concern is we got to make all these things work on week 1, week 0, and we've worked very hard to do that.
Let me say this to you before we get out of here. Barry and I are real sympathetic for you on Sundays.
Well, just the Wi-Fi alone in these stadiums, Steve. How are they going to make sure if it freezes up in Knoxville, Tennessee, you're going to have a conspiracy theory going on. So I guess if one tablet freezes, then none of them can use them, correct? If there's ever a problem on the sideline or with the microphones in the helmet.
Yeah, so the rule itself, and this is the same for the coaches' headsets, the rule itself, has nothing in there on communications failure or failure of the devices. But many conferences develop a conference rule that says, hey, if one, like I'll use the coach's headsets, not if one coach headsets fail, but if every headset fails, then both teams have to put them off, until we get it corrected.
Yeah.
But, if you do that as a conference, you have to always be alert to, like you say, gamesmanship or anything from that perspective. So it's so critical that we really have great working relationships and that we get this technology working. Because, like I said, my biggest concern is if this thing doesn't work well, it's going to take a lot of negative press right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And
So I could be on there. All of a sudden, I got two guys with dots on their head on. Two guys on the offenses. We got mixed up. We got two guys with dots on. Is there a penalty?
It is. It will be. It'll be a live ball 5-yard penalty. So after the play, the defense will have a choice: accept the play or take a 5-yard penalty. So
yeah, but I've already done one. Good.
Yeah, but whatever positive that happened on that play will be taken away.
All right.
And what's interesting too is the rules committee said anytime you have a penalty. Or if for somehow the officials missed it, anytime you have a play with 2 green dots on the field, that it also initiates a conference review because we know that this is going to happen accidentally, especially maybe on defense. But we want to, ensure that there's not some kind of gamesmanship and try to slip somebody in and get more communication. So the conferences will look at it as well to see, hey, this was just an accident, or no, this was a little more sinister, and we'll have that conversation.
It seems like the officials have enough to do, boy, and they have to worry about that. Wow. Walk us through, we're talking with Steve Shaw, when we want to go to replay. And so whatever is called on the field is critical in a replay. It has to be enough to overturn it there. Is there a time limit on that, Steve, to where this thing, we can't go forever? I know basketball seems like forever. They're running that monitor. It takes forever, where we wish they would just put like a minute and a half on. You got a minute and a half to decide. Kind of walk us through the replay and a challenge on that.
Yeah, so 2 ways it can stop it. The replay official can stop the game, based on, if they feel like, it's worthy of review, there may be video evidence to overturn it. Or the coach, if they have a timeout remaining, they can call timeout and challenge. And so once we go into replay, we do have a guideline for them, and that guideline is, get out of it at 2 minutes. If you can't, their job is to look at, assume the ruling on the field is correct. And if you have indisputable video evidence to overturn the call, then you do it. Otherwise, let it stand and move on. What we've given them guidance, if you're beginning to approach 2 minutes and you don't have, a shot or whatever, then, that's enough evidence to say we're going to let it stand and move on. Yeah. We're looking for clear and obvious to overturn it. And we've really worked hard to drive the time down. One of the things that we really started with last year, we got better as we went through the season, because once you have a review, then it's kind of this whole deal. The referee makes their announcement and they jog all the way down and get on the headset. And sometimes these things are just, straightforward and obvious. You have a pass we call complete, but it bounced in, and the replay official knows they're going to overturn it before, they even make the announcement. And so what we're trying to do is work with an expedited review. We're trying to use what we call O2O, official to official communication. So, the officials can all talk to one another. The replay can talk to them. So if they have one of these plays that are clear and obvious and they know, hey, we're going to overturn this, then as soon as they stop the game, they're going to let the referee know that this is going to be an expedited review. And the referee's not going to go all the way down to the headset. They're going to say, hey, ball bounced in, it's incomplete. It's going to be 3rd and 10 at the 25. Let's go. And the referee will make the announcement. So it still is an official review, but it'll shave some time out of it. And that's where we all want to be. We're really, during the off season, every 2 weeks, we've had a video call with all of our replay officials looking at plays. We're really working to get quicker in that process. And I'll tell you one other thing, collaborative replay. So where the conference office is involved collaboratively with this. People initially said, oh, man, we're adding another person that's going to slow it down. But it really speeds it up because, when they have the video evidence, they can move the replay official along. They can communicate together. And this year, 8 or 9 of our 10 FBS conferences are going to use collaborative replay. We've put in officiating standards, so we're all doing collaborative replay the same way. So collaborative replay is here to stay, and it's actually making us better, more consistent.
Define that for me and our listeners.
So collaborative replay is so for the SEC, for example, back at the conference office, they have a staff, and they're linked into all the games that day. They have all the views that the replay officials have. They're in communications with those replay officials. So when we have a stop of the game, they're collaborating with that replay official in stadium. And their role is not only to ensure that, we don't have, that the replay official is not going down a wrong path or whatever, or missing a rule, but they'll communicate with them and support their judgment, or really, when the replay official says, hey, I'm going to overturn this, hey, yep, let's go, that's good, we agree. Or if there's something that, hey, you need to think about, this may have been a touchdown, think a goal line extended rule. So it's really a fail-safe. It's coming from the video center, and it's linking with the replay official. And it's really been helpful to make sure that we get the call correct when we overturn it, and that we're efficient as we possibly can be. And replay's a hard job. I mean, I know most people think, that's an easy job, but man, it is a very difficult job. Yeah. And the collaborative replay has helped us be better. Lastly, we're talking with Steve Shaw. It seems like, Steve, and I know you guys, gambling is so big now, especially on these SEC games, and it seems like the last play is going to flip the line one way or another, just about in everyone over the over-under. I mean, I'm sure you guys instruct these officiate the game until the 0 is on the clock because of plays like that flipping games. I know people get so mad at the officials, and you know why? Because they got money one way or another there at the end. Do you guys even talk about those things as you get ready for the season? We absolutely do, and I'll say it too, and I get a lot of those emails. It's 31-14, and there's a play at the end of the game. Yeah. Somebody, and I was like, it's 31-14. This play didn't impact. Well, obviously they probably had something. So hey, your official cost me, and my standard answer is, the only piece of advice that I can give you is don't bet. Yeah. So, but we recognize that in this new world that we're in, there's going to be gambling. It's legal, all of that. So we have really ratcheted up our conversations with officials, not only, ensuring that they don't gamble, and the guidelines are, the NCAA guidelines are, if the NCAA conducts a championship in that sport, if you're an official for football, but if any sport that the SEC has a championship on, you're not allowed to bet on. And really, our officials are just, they just need to stay away from betting. It is, and what we do talk to them about, they have a video that they have to watch before the season that kind of talks about, people and what they do and the approaches. Now, I mean, it's really scary. Yeah. The things that are out there. And so, that's one of my big concerns. And we've really I had at our referee meeting, we had an FBI agent come in and talk to them about how people may approach you and things of that nature. So we're really trying to educate officials on what to be leery of, what to kind of turn in, alert people when things happen, especially if you're threatened or anything like that on the backside. But, it can be something as simple as, you meet somebody and they say, hey, we've got a mountain house. Why don't you go up there for a week and, take your family. And if people start, giving you all these nice things, you need to stop and take a look. Hey, why is this person doing this? Because at some point down the line, they're better off not betting on basketball games. Yeah. Well, they by our guidelines, they're prohibited from betting on it. And most of our officials, I mean, they have a day job, but that's their passion. That's what they want to do. And they understand that anything with gambling could eliminate them from, their passion. And so our officials, understand that, stay away from gambling, but what we're trying to do is inform and educate them even more about things to be leery of, things to turn in, things to, bring to, your conference office or the NCAA. It's a scary world out there. And I know the NCAA president has been really very vocal on some of these prop bets and not allowing that. And I mean, that puts, it's not just the officials, it puts the players under, additional scrutiny. I mean, you can now, it's like the guy lines up for a 39-yard field goal, in some states, a thing pops in on your phone, do you bet he makes it or misses it? Well, you bet, and then you bet he makes it and he misses it. And now you're mad at that player. And, so this thing, especially the prop bets are really something that we've all said probably not good for our collegiate game. But, the reality is, we used to just say, no betting, stay away and forget it. We know that there's betting out there, and we're really trying to educate our officials more and more on what to be leery of.
Yeah, I can imagine the emails.
Well, I tell you what, this has been an absolutely great interview. I appreciate so much you taking time to be with us, and hopefully we can play back some of this the next couple of days, because you've done a great job for us. I want to thank you for it. And let me tell you this.
Well, thank you, Coach.
Your golf game has suffered. You're about a 3 handicap. You're up to a 10.
Well, unfortunately, you're pretty close, Coach, and it isn't going to get better until after late January. Now with the extended CFP, our national championship game is much later, and so it'll be March or April before I get a chance to get back out there. But that's it. I love what I do, and we're looking forward to getting it rolling.
Steve, thank you so much for being on with us.
That's great. Thank you.
And my pleasure. Good to talk to y'all.
Yeah. It's inevitable that the last play of the game is going to flip the line one way or the other. And people get so mad at the player and the officials for not fishing.
What a great interview.
All right, let's tell them about, we went way past the break. Let's tell them about Bryant Bank before we get to break.
Well, Bryant Bank, go in to Bryant Bank to be the banker there that you know. There'll be people there that you can bank online around the clock. People coming in after your money. If you've got a business account or a personal account there, you can be sure that both of them are safe. Bryant Bank is an outstanding bank, started in Tuscaloosa in 2005 throughout Birmingham, a lot of places in the state of Alabama. I hope you go by Bryant Bank and tell them that you heard us speak about them and that you want to get involved with Bryant Bank. I think when you do, you'll be glad that you did. I did it many years ago and continue to do so. Bryant Bank, one of the best.
You listen to Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, looking at pretty ideal conditions continuing across the area. Now, it doesn't mean you don't have slow goes, because we definitely have that, and it's in the usual spot there, McFarland at Lurleen Wallace intersection. McFarland continues with its delays, and it extends between Watermelon and McFarland, and right over here.
It's the year-end clearance sale at Townsend Nissan going on now. You can save thousands. See BJ or Kylan today at Townsend Nissan, your savings place.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental-car comes with 24 hours roadside assistance.
To let this moment pass us by.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up starting at 2 p.m., we're going to feature Mike Detillier, WWL, the big 870. Brett McMurphy explains why he believes in the Alabama Crimson Tide. Right here on The Game, Tide 100.9, 1230. WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, looking at pretty ideal conditions continuing across the area. Now, it doesn't mean you don't have slow goes, because we definitely have that, and it's in the usual spot there, McFarland at Lurleen Wallace intersection. McFarland continues with its delays, and it extends between Watermelon and McFarland, and right over here at
Code BETTER for 15% off your first purchase. Love it or return it for free. That's LUME deodorant.com. Code BETTER to save 15% today.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays dry for the rest of the week. Lots of sunshine today, the high 89. Very pleasant tonight. A touch of fall in the air. Fair with the low at 62. Tomorrow and Thursday, sunny both days. Highs between 87 and 90. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
You're listening to Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, that'll do it for today's show. All the interviews go up on the podcast center, so if you missed any of the Steve Shaw interview, I'm still confused about the clock stopping and all the different things. I don't like the tablets and the green dot. It's just too much more for the officials to have to keep up with when a game's already difficult to officiate, but what do I know? Anyway, the Gary Harris Show is next, so keep it locked in here all day long. This is the Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC. It is the home of Alabama Sports. Have a great day, everybody.